Welcome to Miss Scarlett. Subscribe and don't miss out on Patreon. Have fun!
Dust danced in the attic's half-light, a spectacle only 65-year-old Levi Henderson's weathered gaze caught. Nearly 2 years had passed since his wife, Martha, passed, and with each dawn and dusk, the somber air in the Victorian house intensified. What he touched today, however, was unlike anything else in the house. Levi peered at the book's yellowed pages, its cover, its pages leather-bound, its script faded. The book's title, gold-leafed, observed, "Restoration of Youth and Vigor." Read it aloud, Levi thought to himself. You've seen no one in days. So, with a timid voice, his muttered, "Restoration of youth and vigor, to feel alive again." How would it have ended up in the attic? He'd never believed in magic, not really. But grief had hollowed him out, leaving room for impossible hopes to take root. What did he have to lose? The ritual called for common items, candles, salt, a drop of blood, and something treasured from his past. He chose Martha's silver locket, the one containing a curl of her chestnut hair. In the center of the attic floor, surrounded by flickering candlelight, Levi spoke words in a language he didn't understand. The locket grew warm in his palm as he completed the final incantation.
"Please,"
he whispered, closing his eyes as exhaustion washed over him. "I just want another chance." Sleep claimed him there on the floor, amid the circle of melting candles. Morning light filtered through the dusty attic window, warming skin that felt strangely soft. Consciousness returned gradually, accompanied by a profound sense of disorientation. Something was different. Everything was different. The ceiling seemed farther away, the floorboards harder beneath a body that felt wrong. Rising to unsteady feet, Levi stumbled toward the small mirror propped against an old dresser, only to freeze at the sight of unfamiliar hands. Slender, smooth, with neatly trimmed nails, free of the age spots that had mapped his skin for decades. The mirror revealed a stranger, a young woman with wide hazel eyes staring back in horror. Cascading auburn hair fell past delicate shoulders, framing a heart-shaped face with full lips parted in shock. The gray pajamas that had fit properly the night before now hung loosely on a petite frame. "What have I done?" The voice that emerged was melodic, higher, unmistakably feminine. Trembling fingers touched warm cheeks, traced the gentle curve of a jaw. This was no dream, no hallucination. The spell had worked, but not as intended. Instead of restoring his youth, it had transformed him entirely. She sank to the floor, breath coming in quick gasps. The spell book lay open nearby, its pages blank where instructions had been the night before. Hours passed as she remained frozen in disbelief, touching her face, her hair, struggling to reconcile the impossible. Eventually, practical concerns intruded. The pajamas threatened to slip from narrow shoulders, and hunger gnawed at her stomach. Rising unsteadily, she cinched the drawstring of the pajama pants tightly and rolled up the sleeves. The stairs creaked differently under her lighter weight as she descended to the kitchen. Each movement felt strange. Her center of gravity had shifted, her stride naturally shorter. In the kitchen's harsher light, her reflection in the window confirmed reality. She was young, perhaps 25, and undeniably female. The ritual had done more than restore youth. It had rewritten her entirely. "I need The unfamiliar voice trailed off. What did she need? Clothes that fit, a plan, an identity. The refrigerator held little, a widower's sparse provisions. She made toast with trembling hands, consuming it mechanically while staring at Martha's photograph on the counter. What would you make of this? She whispered to the image of her late wife. A thought struck suddenly. Who was she now? Not Levi Henderson, 65-year-old retired history professor. That life was gone. Elise, she said experimentally, the name coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. It felt right on her tongue, as though it had been waiting for her to claim it. Elise. She would be Elise. The practical problem of clothing couldn't wait. Wrapped in Martha's old bathrobe, a faded blue terry cloth that smelled faintly of the lavender sachets her wife had loved, Elise ventured to the bedroom closet. Martha had been taller, broader in the shoulders than Elise's new form, but perhaps something might suffice temporarily. Among the garments Levi hadn't been able to donate was a summer dress Martha had purchased, but never worn. The tag still hung from the floral fabric. Elise held it against herself, measuring. It would be loose, but wearable. Dressing proved an education in itself. The unfamiliar fastenings, the way fabric draped differently across this new body. The dress hung loosely around her waist and chest, but a belt from Martha's collection cinched it adequately. An old pair of sandals from the back of the closet slipped off her smaller feet with each step. Standing before the full-length mirror, Elise hardly recognized herself. The floral pattern complemented her auburn hair, which fell in natural waves past her shoulders. Without makeup, her face looked young, almost vulnerable. I need to go shopping, she told her reflection. But that required money, identification, solutions to problems she was only beginning to comprehend. Fortunately, Levi had kept emergency cash in his desk drawer. $300 wouldn't last long, but it might cover immediate necessities. As for identification, that was a problem for later. First, she needed clothes that fit. Driving presented its own challenges. The seat needed adjusting, the mirrors repositioning for her smaller frame. Her hands felt different on the steering wheel, more sensitive, the skin softer as she gripped the familiar leather. The sedan responded as always, but everything else had changed. The mall stood as a monument to normality, people going about their lives without any awareness of the impossible transformation in their midst. Elise moved tentatively, conscious of how her borrowed dress hung awkwardly, how the oversized sandals threatened to trip her with each step. A department store offered anonymity among racks of clothing. Elise wandered, overwhelmed by options never before considered. Sizes meant nothing to her. What dimensions now contained her new form? Can I help you find something? A sales associate with a kind smile approached. I need everything, Elise admitted, her voice still startling to her own ears. My luggage was lost and I have nothing. The lie came surprisingly easily, opening a path to assistance without impossible explanations. Oh, you poor thing. Let's get you sorted. We'll start with measurements. The associate, Tina, according to her name tag, proved efficient and mercifully discreet. Under her guidance, Elise acquired the basics: underwear, an education in itself, jeans, t-shirts, a pair of comfortable flats. The numbers and letters on tags gradually began to make sense as Tina explained what suited Elise's figure. You have such beautiful coloring, Tina commented, holding a sage green blouse against Elise's chest. This brings out the warmth in your auburn hair. Thank you, Elise murmured, still unused to compliments directed at features she'd possessed for less than a day. A floral sundress caught her eye, soft cotton in pastel pinks and creams. On impulse, she added it to the growing pile, along with a light pink cardigan that felt impossibly soft against her skin. "Perfect for spring," Tina approved, "and these heels would complement it nicely." The heels were modest, 2 inches with a supportive strap around the ankle, but Elise regarded them doubtfully. "I'm not sure I can walk in those." "These are beginner-friendly," Tina assured her. "Start low and sensible." At the register, Elise watched the total climb with growing alarm. The cash wouldn't cover everything. Reluctantly, she pulled out Levi's credit card. A risk, but a necessary one. "Family emergency," she explained when Tina glanced at the masculine name. "My uncle's card. He's helping me out until my things are found." The transaction went through, a small miracle in itself. Perhaps the universe was granting small mercies amid the impossible. In the store's restroom, Elise changed into new underwear, a revelation in comfort, jeans that actually fit her slender legs, a soft green t-shirt, and the practical flats. Looking in the mirror, she saw someone beginning to come together, no longer a woman drowning in borrowed clothes, but a person with presence. The remaining items went into shopping bags, along with cosmetics Tina had suggested as essentials. How much of womanhood was performance, Elise wondered, and how much innate? She was navigating waters without map or compass. Back at the house, she couldn't think of it as home in this new context. Elise carried her purchases to the bedroom. Martha's vanity stood in the corner, largely untouched since her passing. Now Elise sat before it, studying her reflection in the trifold mirror. The face looking back had begun to feel less foreign. Hazel eyes, similar to Levi's, yet different in their setting, examined features that held hints of the man she'd been. The nose, perhaps. Something in the brow, but overlaid with softness, with differences that accumulated into transformation. Following a tutorial on her phone, Elise attempted basic makeup. The results were uneven, but humanizing. A touch of mascara opened her eyes. A hint of blush warmed her cheeks. The person in the mirror became more cohesive, more intentional. As the sun set, reality's weight settled more firmly. This wasn't temporary. The spellbook remained stubbornly blank, offering no path to reversal. Levi Henderson was gone, replaced by a woman who didn't exist in any legal document. Practical problems loomed. Money would run out. The credit card would eventually be flagged as stolen. She couldn't access Levi's accounts without identification. The house itself stood as a problem. How to explain her presence to neighbors who knew Levi? Sleep came fitfully that night, her smaller body lost in the expanse of the bed she'd once shared with Martha. Dreams tangled past and present, Martha laughing, not at the transformation but with it, as though sharing a cosmic joke. Morning brought tentative resolution. If the change couldn't be undone, it must be embraced. A fresh start, complete and thorough. Over coffee, which tasted different to her altered palate, Elise formed a plan. She would become someone new entirely, leaving Levi Henderson's life behind. The practicalities would be challenging, but not impossible. First, she needed documentation. After research on her phone, she located services that provided alternate identification for a price. Morally questionable, perhaps, but survival necessitated compromise. The house and its contents could be liquidated through an attorney, with instructions to forward proceeds to an account she would establish under her new identity. The cover story would be simple. Levi Henderson had decided to retire abroad, appointing a law firm to handle his affairs. It felt strange, planning her own disappearance while simultaneously crafting her emergence. The duality reminded her of teaching history, how often the end of one era seamlessly became the beginning of another, distinctions existing only in retrospect. Wearing the floral sundress and pink cardigan, with sensible heels that made her feel more grounded, Elise ventured out again. The bank accepted her story about being Levi Henderson's niece, temporarily handling his affairs while he recovered from surgery. The manager raised an eyebrow at the substantial withdrawal, but processed it nonetheless. Cash in hand, Elise continued methodically through her checklist. A prepaid phone, a week's stay at a modest hotel, paid in advance, consultation with a document service recommended in an online forum.
Henderson is your uncle?
The man asked, not bothering to hide his skepticism. Great, uncle, Elise amended, the lie expanding to fit circumstances. I've been estranged from family. Need a fresh start. He nodded, uninterested in details beyond the cash she placed on the table. 2 weeks. Passport will take longer. 2 weeks to exist in limbo, between identities. Elise used the time to practice being herself. Walking in heels became less treacherous. Applying makeup evolved from experiment to routine. Her voice found its natural register, no longer surprising her when she spoke. The hotel room became a cocoon of transformation. Elise watched cooking shows, practiced recipes in the kitchenette. She read novels Martha had loved, but Levi had never appreciated, finding new resonance in the prose. Sometimes she caught herself moving differently, a tilt of the head, a gesture of the hand that belonged entirely to this new self. The documents, when they arrived, felt momentous. Elise Taylor, according to her new driver's license and birth certificate, 30 years old. The document creator had added 5 years, saying it would be more believable with her established demeanor. Born in Sacramento, California. Thank you, she told her reflection that night, unsure who she was thanking. Martha, perhaps, for the space to become someone new, or the universe for the second chance, however strangely delivered. Dressed in a navy blue dress with a white collar, professional, respectable, Elise met with a real estate agent. Levi Henderson, she explained, was her elderly relative who had decided to move to assisted living. She had power of attorney to sell his property. The forged documents passed inspection. The house went on the market, its contents categorized for estate sale or donation. Each object cataloged felt like saying goodbye to a piece of Levi's life. Martha's china, his collection of historical maps, books accumulated over decades of teaching. Some items Elise couldn't bear to part with. Martha's locket, now containing a snippet of Elise's auburn hair alongside the original chestnut strand. Photographs, carefully selected to exclude images of Levi himself. Small treasures that might plausibly belong to a niece or family friend. The sale proceeded quickly. The housing market was favorable, the Victorian attractive to buyers looking for character. Watching movers pack the furniture felt surreal, as though Elise observed a movie about someone else's life. On the final walkthrough, she paused in each room, acknowledging endings and beginnings. In the bedroom where Martha had died, she whispered goodbye. In the study where Levi had graded papers for decades, she closed the door on a completed chapter. The attic she saved for last. The spellbook remained where she'd left it, inert and ordinary in appearance. She considered destroying it, but something stayed her hand. Instead, she wrapped it carefully and added it to her small collection of kept treasures. Some questions might never have answers, but the book itself was proof she hadn't imagined everything. With the house sold and affairs settled, Elise faced the blank page of her future. The substantial proceeds from the sale provided financial security, at least temporarily. But money alone couldn't create meaning. In a cafe 200 miles from her former home, dressed in a yellow sundress that brightened her auburn hair, Elise considered possibilities. Levi had been a history professor, finding purpose in education. Perhaps Elise could build on that foundation, differently expressed. "Is this seat taken?" A voice interrupted her thoughts. A man about her apparent age stood beside the table, coffee in hand. Under different circumstances, Levi might have found him attractive, tall, with kind eyes and a tentative smile. "Please, join me," Elise heard herself say, surprising herself with the easy welcome. "Daniel," he introduced himself, extending his hand. "Elise," she replied, the name now feeling natural on her lips. Their conversation flowed easily. Books, travel, the merits of various coffee preparations. Daniel worked in museum curation, specializing in historical textiles. The coincidental connection to history made Elise smile. "You have an interesting perspective," he commented after she offered insights on a medieval tapestry his museum had recently acquired. "Background in art history?" "Just an enthusiast," she demurred. "I find the stories behind objects fascinating." He smiled. "The museum is looking for tour guides, actually. People who can bring history alive for visitors. You might consider applying." The suggestion settled like a key finding its lock. Not teaching as Levi had, but adjacent, sharing knowledge, connecting people to the past. "I might," she agreed. "I'm new in town, looking to establish myself." They exchanged numbers before parting, professional networking, ostensibly, though the warmth in Daniel's eyes suggested potential for more. Elise felt a flutter of something unfamiliar in her chest, a complexity of emotion she wasn't ready to examine closely. The museum application process proved straightforward. Elise's background in historical appreciation, combined with her natural ability to engage listeners, honed through Levi's decades of teaching, secured her the position. The salary was modest, but combined with her financial cushion, more than adequate. Her first day on the job, dressed in a professional burgundy dress that complemented her auburn hair, Elise felt nerves and excitement in equal measure. The staff welcomed her warmly, Daniel introducing her to colleagues with evident approval. "Our new star," he called her, eliciting both pleasure and embarrassment. Leading her first tour group, school children with energy that bordered on chaos, Elise discovered a talent for capturing attention. She wove historical facts into narratives that made dusty artifacts come alive. By the tour's end, even the most restless children were engaged, asking questions that showed genuine interest. "You're a natural," Daniel commented afterward, walking her to the staff room. "Where did you learn to connect with audiences like that?" The question brushed against boundaries of her fabricated past. "I come from a family of storytellers," she said, not entirely untruthfully. Levi had indeed come from such a tradition. Days became weeks. Weeks accumulated into months. Elise's apartment, chosen for its proximity to the museum and its large windows that welcomed morning light, gradually filled with carefully selected items. Bookshelves held volumes both practical and pleasurable. The kitchen acquired quality tools as she explored cooking with growing confidence. Her wardrobe evolved with her sense of self. The pink cardigan remained a favorite, now paired with more sophisticated dresses. Heels became less intimidating, though she still preferred modest heights. On weekends, she favored comfortable jeans and soft sweaters, her auburn hair often gathered in a casual ponytail. Social connections formed gradually. Museum colleagues became friends. A neighbor invited her to a book club, where Elise's insights on historical fiction earned appreciation. She joined a community garden, finding satisfaction in nurturing growth with her hands. Daniel's presence in her life grew more significant. Their professional relationship evolved into friendship, then tentatively into something more. Coffee after work became dinner at interesting restaurants. Conversations extended into comfortable silences and laughter that came easily.
"There's something unusual about you,"
he told her one evening as they walked through the park, autumn leaves crunching beneath their feet. "Like you're seeing everything with fresh eyes." Elise's heart quickened. "Is that bad?" Not at all. His hand found hers, warm and reassuring. "It's wonderful. You notice things others miss." The simple pleasure of her hand in his, the normality and extraordinariness of it, brought tears to her eyes. Her emotional responses still sometimes surprised her, more immediate and complex than Levi's had been. "Sorry," she said, wiping away moisture with her free hand. "Just happy, I think." Daniel squeezed her hand gently. "No need to apologize for happiness." That night, alone in her apartment, Elise contemplated the growing feelings between them. Physical attraction was part of it. Daniel's smile made her pulse quicken in ways both familiar and new, but deeper currents flowed beneath. Could she build a relationship on foundations that included such profound secrets? The question remained unresolved as spring arrived, bringing longer days and renewed energy. Elise's position at the museum expanded to include developing educational programs. Her natural empathy, combined with Levi's academic background, made her particularly effective at creating experiences that resonated with diverse audiences. "The board is impressed," the museum director told her after a particularly successful program for seniors. "We'd like to make your position permanent, with appropriate salary adjustments." Security, recognition, gifts she accepted gratefully. The infrastructure of Elise's life was solidifying, becoming less improvisational and more established. Daniel invited her to dinner at his apartment to celebrate, promising to cook his grandmother's famous risotto. Elise brought wine and flowers, dressed in the floral sundress that had been among her first purchases. His space reflected his personality, organized but warm, books and artifacts arranged with curator's precision but lived-in comfort. Family photographs lined one wall, generations of smiling faces in silver frames.
"You look beautiful,"
he said, taking the wine from her hands. "That dress suits you perfectly." Dinner unfolded with comfortable intimacy. The risotto lived up to its reputation, rich with mushrooms and herbs. Conversation flowed naturally, touching on work, books, future aspirations. As they settled on the couch afterward, Daniel's arm around her shoulders, Elise felt simultaneously at peace and on the edge of something momentous. When he turned to kiss her, she met him halfway, surprised by her body's immediate response, the quickening pulse, the heat rising to her cheeks. The kiss deepened, his hand cradling her face with gentleness that made her heart ache. Physical desire intertwined with emotional connection in ways Elise was still learning to navigate. Drawing back slightly, Daniel searched her eyes.
"Is this okay?"
The question contained multitudes. Was the kiss okay? Was the potential for more okay? Was she ready for boundaries to shift? "Yes," she said simply. The truth, despite complications, he couldn't know. Their relationship evolved with careful consideration on both sides. Daniel respected her occasional reticence about physical intimacy, never pushing beyond her comfort. Elise discovered her body's responses, different from what Levi had known, yet connected through continuity of self. One Sunday morning, Waking in Daniel's bed with sunlight painting patterns across the sheets, Elise studied his sleeping face. The tenderness she felt transcended categories. Not exclusively romantic or sexual or friendly, but a constellation containing elements of all these and more.
You're watching me,
he murmured, without opening his eyes, a smile touching his lips. Just appreciating the view, she replied, the playfulness in her tone still sometimes surprising her. He pulled her closer, his warmth enveloping her.
Any plans today?
The garden needs attention. My tomatoes are staging a rebellion.
Can't have that.
I'll help after breakfast. The domestic ease between them felt miraculous. Sharing coffee, reading sections of the newspaper to each other, planning their day with casual synchronicity, ordinary magic Elise never took for granted. At the community garden, Daniel proved surprisingly knowledgeable about vegetable cultivation. Together they staked tomato plants, weeded around delicate herbs, harvested early lettuce for salads.
My grandfather was a farmer,
he explained, gently relocating an earthworm to safer soil. Some lessons stick with you. Elise thought of her own grandfather, Levi's grandfather, who had indeed been a farmer, connections across time, persisting despite transformation. The thought comforted her. As summer progressed, Daniel broached the subject of meeting his family. My parents' anniversary is next month. They're having a small gathering at their lake house. I'd like you to come. The invitation represented a threshold. Meeting family meant becoming part of a documented history, photographs, stories, references that would persist. I'd love to, she said, choosing commitment to this new life over lingering reservations. The anniversary celebration brought Elise into contact with Daniel's extended family, parents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins. She wore a sophisticated blue dress with her favorite sensible heels, her auburn hair arranged in an elegant updo that had taken 3 YouTube tutorials to master. Everyone will love you, Daniel assured her as they approached the lake house. Just be yourself. The irony of the common reassurance wasn't lost on Elise, who had spent more than a year learning exactly what being herself meant in this new incarnation. His prediction proved accurate. Daniel's mother embraced her warmly. His father offered dry wit that reminded her of certain academic colleagues. Siblings teased good-naturedly, drawing her into family dynamics with easy inclusion. Daniel says you're a natural educator, his sister commented as they prepared salad together in the kitchen. That's high praise from him. I love helping people connect with history, Elise replied, the truth a solid foundation beneath the necessary omissions. There's something profound about understanding where we've come from. The weekend unfolded in pleasant rhythms. Meals shared around large tables, afternoon swims in the lake, evenings of board games and conversation. Elise found herself included in family photographs, her image captured alongside people whose histories stretched back generations. On the drive home, Daniel reached across the console to take her hand. Thank you for coming. It meant a lot to me. They're wonderful people, she said sincerely. I'm grateful you wanted me to meet them. They're already asking when you'll visit again. He squeezed her hand gently.
My mother has decided you're perfect for me.
The comment hung between them, laden with implications neither was quite ready to articulate fully. And what do you think? Elise asked, her heart quickening. Daniel glanced away from the road briefly, his eyes warm.
I think she might be right.
The admission shifted something between them, bringing future possibilities into sharper focus. Elise felt simultaneous exhilaration and apprehension. A life with Daniel would require sustained navigation of her unusual past. Fall brought changes at the museum, a special exhibition on medical history that Elise helped curate, drawing on knowledge from her previous life without revealing its source. The project absorbed her, providing welcome, intellectual challenge.
You've revitalized this place,
the director told her during the exhibition's opening reception. Your perspective bridges academic rigor and public accessibility beautifully. Dressed in an elegant burgundy gown that complemented her auburn hair, Elise accepted the praise with genuine pleasure. The work fulfilled her in ways both familiar and new, connecting to Levi's academic passions while expressing them through Elise's more intuitive approach. Daniel found her near a display of 19th century surgical instruments, deep in conversation with a visiting physician about historical approaches to pain management.
Sorry to interrupt,
he said, nodding respectfully to the doctor.
They're about to start speeches.
As they moved toward the main gallery, Daniel's hand rested lightly at the small of her back. The simple gesture of support and connection grounded her amid the evening's social demands. Later, walking home beneath trees shedding golden leaves, Daniel stopped suddenly.
Move in with me.
The proposal caught Elise off guard. What?
I know it's sudden,
he continued, words tumbling out with uncharacteristic nervousness. But I love you. I love the life we're building. My lease is up next month, yours in 3. We could find a place together, something that's ours from the beginning. Elise's mind raced through implications. Living together meant greater intimacy, fewer spaces to maintain necessary boundaries around her past. Yet, the pull toward deeper connection was undeniable. I love you too, she said, the words both true and insufficient to encompass the complexity of her feelings. But there are things about me, about my past. Daniel's expression softened.
I know there are parts of your life you haven't shared. I respect that. Everyone has chapters they keep private.
If only he knew how literal those chapters were in her case. Entire volumes of existence transformed and set aside.
When you're ready to share more, I'll listen, he continued. But I don't need your complete history to know I want a future with you.
His generosity of spirit moved her deeply. Yes, she said simply. Let's find a place together. The apartment hunt became a joyful project, the couple visiting neighborhoods throughout the city in search of the right combination of space, location, and character. They eventually settled on a 2-bedroom unit in a converted factory building. Exposed brick walls, tall windows, wooden floors worn smooth by decades of use. Room for your books, Daniel noted as they signed the lease. And mine, though we might need more shelves. Moving in together meant merging possessions, creating shared spaces that reflected both personalities. Elise contributed carefully selected furniture, artwork, kitchen implements. Daniel brought his extensive book collection, comfortable armchairs, family photographs now joined by images that included Elise, their first night in the new apartment. Surrounded by half-unpacked boxes, they toasted with champagne in mismatched glasses.
2 new beginnings,
Daniel proposed. And continuity amid change, Elise added, thinking of the thread that connected her past and present selves. As winter settled over the city, their shared life developed comfortable routines. Mornings began with coffee and quiet conversation before work. Evenings often found them cooking together, comparing notes on their respective days. Weekends included museum visits, farmers markets, occasional dinners with friends from both their social circles. Elise kept the spellbook locked in a trunk in their second bedroom, which served as a shared office. Sometimes, late at night when Daniel slept, she would take it out and study its blank pages, wondering at the power that had transformed her life so completely. On a snowy evening in February, Daniel built a fire in their small fireplace, while Elise prepared pasta sauce that filled the apartment with aromatic warmth. The domesticity of the scene struck her suddenly. How natural it felt to share space and time with him. How completely Elise had become her authentic self despite the extraordinary circumstances of her creation. Daniel looked up from the hearth, firelight catching in his hair.
I've been thinking,
he began, an unfamiliar tension in his voice. Dangerous activity, she teased gently, stirring the sauce. He smiled but didn't return the banter. Instead, he crossed to where she stood and took her free hand.
I want to marry you,
he said simply.
Not right away, necessarily, but someday. I want you to know that's where I see us heading.
The declaration hung in the air between them, momentous and fragile. Elise felt joy and terror in equal measure. Marriage meant documentation, legal scrutiny, family histories examined. Daniel, she began, uncertain how to navigate this territory. He squeezed her hand.
You don't need to answer now. I just wanted you to know.
The sauce began to bubble, drawing her attention back to immediate concerns. It's ready, she said, grateful for the momentary reprieve from responding. They ate dinner beside the fire, conversation turning to lighter topics, an upcoming exhibition, plans for spring planting in the community garden. But Daniel's declaration remained present, an unresolved chord awaiting resolution. Later, dishes cleared and wine glasses refilled, Elise made a decision. Some truths could be shared, even if the whole remained too fantastical to reveal. I want to tell you something about my past, she said quietly. Daniel settled beside her on the couch, attentive but not pressing. I wasn't always Elise, she began carefully. There was a time when I was someone else entirely. A transformation happened, one I never expected and can't fully explain even to myself. She watched his face, searching for signs of disbelief or judgment. Finding none, she continued. The person I was before, he had a full life, a career, a marriage that ended with his wife's death. When I became me, I had to leave that life behind completely. Daniel's brow furrowed in concentration rather than concern. Are you saying you're transgender? The question wasn't entirely inaccurate, though vastly simplified compared to the magical reality. It offered a bridge between truth and what was believable. In a way, Elise said carefully, though my experience doesn't follow typical paths. It was sudden, complete. There was no transition period as most people understand it. Daniel nodded slowly. That explains some things. Your occasional hesitation with physical intimacy, certain gaps in your personal history. Does it change how you feel? She asked, vulnerability evident in her voice. He reached for her hand, interlacing their fingers. It helps me understand you better. But no, it doesn't change how I feel. I love you, the person you are now, the person you've been since I met you. Relief washed through her, followed by deep gratitude for his acceptance. The explanation was incomplete, necessarily so, but it provided a framework that could accommodate their relationship's continued growth. Thank you, she whispered, leaning against his shoulder. For what? Loving you? That's the easiest thing I've ever done. Spring arrived with renewal both literal and symbolic. In the end, it was their shared love of plants and each other that formed the foundation of their beautiful life together. Elise and Daniel's wedding day arrived under a canopy of golden autumn leaves. The lake house sparkled with a gentle breeze that carried the scent of crisp air and nostalgia. They exchanged vows, their words echoing across the water, witnessed by the swaying trees. It was a celebration of their bond, with nature as their decor, and the presence of loved ones filling the space with joy. Despite the absence of family, Elise felt whole. Daniel's mother, a loving presence, seamlessly filled the role of a supportive parent, understanding and respecting Elise's past. Her motherly embrace during the ceremony, witnessed by all, spoke volumes of acceptance and a new beginning. As the newlyweds, Daniel and Elise, stood surrounded by their supportive community, the fictional constructs of Elise's past melted away under the warm glow of their shared truth.
Thanks for watching, my girlies! Be sure to check out Patreon for more!